Bahram Suruj, and I'd like to welcome you all to the conference. The conference will take place from about now until around 7 in the evening, after which we will have a social, a chance for people to mingle and get to know each other, along with music, food and drink. We will have lunch from 1 to 2 p.m. and plenty of short breaks in between the speeches. If you have any practical questions about the hall, or if you have, there's an emergency, if you want to ask something, please see Hushar Suruj at the back. Most of you know Hushar. And as you can see, there are some bookstores around the hall. You can please help yourself in the break. There are lots of good information and literature you can browse. I hope all of you have a copy of the agenda. There are going to be some changes, which I'll go through now. So this is sort of like a preliminary rough draft of an agenda. The first change is that 11:20, Hoda will be speaking in the afternoon, because Hoda will be speaking in Arabic, and we have a translator in the afternoon. And so at 11:20 we'll have Hatem Lawini, who will take Hoda's place. From Tunisia. I'll introduce everyone. Okay. So it's quite a packed agenda that we have. And as we go along, as I said, the times are quite approximate, so we'll have to tweak and make some changes. Okay. And about the conference itself, I'll just say a few words. And I think you'll all agree with me that this particular conference is happening at a very important, crucial time in the history of Middle East and North Africa. And this timing is actually quite important, that we are holding such a conference in the midst of what's happening in the Middle East right now. Particularly, after the revolutions of 2011, which have, toppled dictators one after the other, and forever changed the face of the Middle East and North Africa, once again it seems the initiative has fallen back to the hands of the reactionary forces, in particular with the painful developments in Iraq and Syria, and the rise of the barbaric Islamic State, the so-called, formerly called ISIS. So people are asking for answers, a way out of the situation. And in that sense, this conference is very timely. And we have a fantastic lineup of speakers today who will contribute to finding answers and solutions, a way out of the situation from a working class perspective. In fact, the only social force which can have a real, viable answer to the situation that we are in now, in the interest of the whole people. So, without further ado, I will introduce the conference speakers as they come and take the podium. The first speaker, and sorry, before that I should mention a technical point. The language of the conference is in English, but we have a Shukufa in the corner that she'll translate into Swedish if you have, if you find the English proceedings hard to follow, and she'd be more than happy if you are, you're going to sit close to Shukufa. And so that's one point. And there are some literature, some of the speeches are available in written form, like, for example, Hoda's speech is available in English as well as Arabic. So this will help to with the translation and following the speeches. So the first speaker is Shahla Danishvar. She's actually, this is just an introductory remarks Shahla is going to make on the conference. Shahla is going to speak in Farsi. Shahla will speak for about 10 minutes. Later on during the day, Shahla will have her main speech about the situation of the labor movement in Iran. And so Shahla is one of the a well-known labor activists from Iran. I'll just say a few words before, for those of you who are not familiar with the work of Shahla. Shahla is the coordinator for the International Workers' Solidarity Committee Iran and for the Freedom Now campaign. And in 1976, she was a teacher, and when in 1979 the revolution broke out, she was a member of the founding committee of Independent Teachers Union. During the revolution and after that, she was active in workers' struggles and informing different workers' organizations like the famous East Tehran Workers' Council. And since then, she's been active in many areas of the labor movement, workers' movement in Iran on the international scene. Okay? I welcome Shahla.
Welcome to our conference. I say welcome to our guests. Dr. Kamal, Dr. Nabil, and Hatem Taruni, and Taqwai. So I'm speaking Persian. من شهلا دانشور هستم، هماهنگ کننده و سخنگوی کمیته همبستگی بین‌المللی کارگری ایران و هماهنگ کننده کمپین برای آزادی کارگران زندانی فریدم ناو. فارسی صحبت میکنم برای اینکه صدای ما پخش میشه رو به ایران و رو به کارگران در ایران، رو به فعالین کارگری در ایران، و به نظر من این یک قدم مهمه. به خاطر که همونطور که برنامه سروش هم گفت، این کنفرانس ما توی مقطع تاریخی مهمی داریم برگزار میکنیم. توی مقطعی که صحبت از یک خاورمیانه نو هست. انقلابات شمال آفریقا رو بهش سر گذاشتیم که نقطه امیدی شد تو دنیا، و بعد از اون هم از طرف دیگه شاهد اتفاقاتی هستیم در عراق که شما میبینید تو شرایطی که بعد از حمله آمریکا به عراق و بعد از بیرون کشیدن نیروهاش از عراق و بعد از خلای سیاسی که در عراق وجود اومد، شما شاهد این هستید که میبینید انحطاط سرمایه‌داری در واقع میبینید با اومدن فاشیست اسلامی، با اومدن داعش در عراق، و همه اینها رو بذارید کنار اوضاع ایران، که در ایران هم شما میبینید که جمهوری اسلامی داعش ایران 30 و چند سال در ایران داره حکومت میکنه، و در مقابل اون ما با یک جنبش کارگری فعال اکتیو روبرو هستیم که بیشتر در صحبت بحثی در موردش توضیح میدم. ولی میخوام بگم مجموعه اینها نشون میده که ما باید حقیقتا زودتر این کار میکردیم، زودتر یک همچین قدمی رو برداشتیم. تو اوضاع جهانی امروز در برابر داعش، در برابر ارتجاع، در برابر فاشیست اسلامی، در برابر همه اینا ما جوابیم. جنبش کارگری جوابه، و ما میتونیم امروز بیش از هر وقت صحبت از همبستگی بین‌المللی کارگری باید کرد، و خود تشکیل کمیته همبستگی بین‌المللی کارگری، یه نتورکی، شبکه‌ای از همبستگی کارگری امروز در خاورمیانه یک اقدام مهمی هست و ما باید این قدم رو برداریم. بنابراین همه چیز تو این کنفرانس اتفاق نمیفته. اینجا یه شروعه و من خوشحالم که از تونس، از مصر، از عراق دوستانی رو اینجا داریم که میتونیم با همدیگه در مورد این به یک اجماعی برسیم. یعنی این کنفرانس باید ادامه پیدا کنه برای شکل دادن به یک شبکه همبستگی کارگری در خاورمیانه. این هدف ما از این کنفرانسه. و در این حال ما اینجا میخوایم صدای اعتراض کارگران در ایران باشیم، صدای کارگران در عراق باشیم، صدای مردم عراق باشیم، صدای مردم تونس باشیم، صدای مردم مصر باشیم. دوستانی از اردن میخواستن تو این کنفرانس شرکت کنن، اکرم دارید توضیح میده. متاسفانه امکاناتش برامون فراهم نبود که تو این فرصت کم بتونیم تدارک کنیم. دوستان از لبنان میخواستن شرکت کنن، متاسفانه امکانش برامون فراهم نشد. دوستان از لیبی میخواستن با ما تماس گرفتن شرکت کنن، نتونستن. ولی فکر کردیم که از مصر و عراق فعلا تو این سطح این کنفرانس رو برگزار بکنیم. امیدوارم بتونیم سالانه این کنفرانس داشته باشیم. اگر ما میخوایم بریم برای کار ادامه کار، اگر میخوایم یک شبکه بسازیم، بنابراین این کنفرانس باید سالانه باشه. و این یک قدمی از انترناسیونال کارگری به نظر من و تو این تاریخ، تو این موقع مهم هستش. و یکی از تلاش‌های ما، یکی از نقاط مهم ما از ایرانیم و تو ایران اون سر ستون اسلام سیاسی تو ایرانه و ما باید اون رو بزنیم. و به همین دلیل یکی از تلاش‌های ما انزوای سیاسی جمهوری اسلامی در سطح جهانی هستش. و این گفتمان رو ما به عنوان کمیته همبستگی کارگری فعالانه بردیم. در اجلاس‌های ILO سازمان جهانی کار به طور مثال شرکت کردیم برای اینکه این گفتمان رو ببریم. همین الان 2 روز پیش قبل از اینکه بیام اینجا از اتحادیه کارگران استرالیا ما پیامی داشتیم که در اون یکی از خواستاش انزوای سیاسی جمهوری اسلامی در سطح بین‌المللی است و حمایت از کارگران زندانی. و یکی از حلقه‌های همبستگی کارگری حمایت از کارگران زندانی است به نظر من. و اینجا به همین دلیل یکی از تلاش‌های ما اینه که صدای این کارگران باشیم و در قسمت از کنفرانس در مورد بهنام ابراهیم‌زاده که وضعیت اضطراری داره صحبت خواهیم کرد. به هر حال من بیشتر از این صحبت نمی‌کنم. فکر می‌کنم برای شروع و مقدمه برای کنفرانس کافی است، برای اینکه بعداً صحبت مفصل‌تری در مورد این موضوع خواهیم داشت. متشکرم.
Thanks very much, Shala. And now I'd like to invite Hatem Laoui. I'll just say a few words about Hatem. And thanks very much, Hatem, for taking your place a little bit earlier. Hatem is a member of the National Youth Committee at UGTT. If I pronounce it in an English way, you may say UGTT. That's the biggest union in Tunisia. And he's also a member of the secondary education at UGTT. He used to teach at Tunisian schools, and now he's working as an attaché at the international department of UGTT. He studied English language, literature, and civilization at Tunisian and British universities in Tunisia and obtained a bachelor and a master's degree. Hatem is a left activist. He's also a member of the political bureau in charge of international relations of PPSR WATAD. Yeah, WATAD. Yeah, WATAD. That's the full name is Revolutionary Patriotic Socialist Party, which is a Marxist-Leninist party. He's active in international solidarity campaigns as well as local revolutionary activism. During the December 17th of January revolutionary activism, he was active in that. and his party were at the head of that sort of revolutionary struggle. So I'd like to welcome Hassan. Please come.
Okay, thank you very much for this introduction. Thank you very much to everybody, to those who invited me. In fact, it is a real honor for me as a Tunisian communist and a workers' activist to be here with comrades from Iran, from Iraq, from Egypt, here in Sweden, with those who are struggling and putting the evidence and that communism and the communist activists and the workers' activists, whatever they are all the time active, and they work for the good of workers and people. In fact, I prepared a paper which is entitled the December 17th Intifada, the Arabic word for the rebellion or insurrection in Tunisia, reality and perspectives. And it is in the written form. I gave it to the translator. She can provide it to you later on. However, because I don't have a lot of time, how much time do I have? Okay. So in discussion with Kazim and the other comrades, I think I prefer to speak about current issues and about the political situation in Tunisia, and also to discuss the perspective of the revolutionary struggle in Tunisia and in the region, and what are the perspectives of communists in the Middle East and North Africa, and what we can do together. So, back to history a bit as an introduction. As you know that the revolution, between inverted commas, started on December 17th, when Mohammed Bouazizi, a young unemployed person in an area, a very poor area, marginalized, and he just set fire on himself, and then that event triggered all of those famous events. However, what is hidden and nobody is talking about is two main things. First, that was only a very simple act, and what happened was only the result and the fruit of a long history of struggle that goes back to decades before that date. And the second truth is that, in fact, all what happened is not a real revolution. That means, regarding the results, and you know that in the history, results and the end of the revolutions counts. That's why I always say a revolution between inverted commas, and I'll come back to this. Back to history, we consider that the events of the mining basin, which is a region in the south of Tunisia, those events in 2008 were the real beginning of the revolution, the events that triggered the revolution. In fact, it was workers of the mines with their families and the young unemployed, and as Karl Marx says, the unemployed are the interim army of workers. We were in front of a new phenomenon. Unemployed, workers who are unemployed, who used to work and then have no longer their work, are looking to sell the force of their labor. And they are looking for a better living. They are looking for dignity through work. And that's why it was a 6-month event with a lot of sacrifices. Too many of our comrades were imprisoned. Too many of them were killed, at least 5 officially were killed by the police of Ben Ali. Those events, in fact, showed that workers and the revolutionary movement are creative. Thank you very much. Because for the first time, we saw the city, a long-term sitting with tents, with mothers, with kids, with children, with families, in front of the police, which later on we will see again in Tunisia after the revolution. That's why we consider that those events were the real step that cleaned the ground to the events of December 17th and January 14th. Also, we consider that the events of 2006 in a place called Skhira, when the workers revolted against the regime, were also a step in the accumulation. Also, the events of 1991, a rebellion in another poor area called Siliana. 1984 also, the very famous event of what we call the Bread Rebellion, when people revolted against the regime and the government of Bourguiba at that time, the former president before Ben Ali, and with hundreds of martyrs and wounded, we could reach some results, but not what we were looking for. And I will come back to these lessons, because either we take lessons from history, otherwise we will repeat the same mistakes. Because what I'm speaking now about are events which were supposed to lead to revolution, to lead to workers and workers' parties to be in power. But we missed history, we missed the opportunity in 1984, before that 1978, and in 2010, 2011. By repeating the same mistakes, that's why I am referring to these events, to tell you that those events that triggered the revolution were not that very simple acts or events shown in BBC or in CNN or in other channels, but the real class struggle within the people, the conflict between the bourgeoisie and the workers' class, and especially the fight against capitalism, which were in certain forms, but unfortunately without a leadership. That's what I will come back to the main lesson, which is in all of these events, there were the absence of the revolutionary leadership that will organize the struggle of the people. Between December 17th and January 14th, 2010, 2011, we were there. The left, my party, other parties in a coalition, we were there from the very beginning. And it's very simple. We were at the forefront of the events. There is no doubt that we, the revolutionary, leftist activists, we led the revolutionary events, and we were in the forefront. It was us who were trained, who were familiar with the struggle during the dictatorship. It was us, those trade union activists, the communist leaders, and even the young leaders of the student movements of the left, who were imprisoned, who faced a lot of experiences of the terror of dictatorship, who never feared the dictatorship. It was us who were in the forefront of the events. And we can't say that it is just a spontaneous act like that. People went in the street. No, it was a class struggle. It was a result of the conflict between classes and the conflict between capital and labor that led to those events, but with the leadership of brave communist left activists. And it was us who gave the example to our people and were in the first lines. We were imprisoned, a lot of us were imprisoned. Our leaders of the left, whether Hama Hamami, whether Shukri Belaid, whether Tayyip Aisha, whether Jamraz were imprisoned during the rebellion. And it was our comrades who were first killed. The first martyr of the events that the mass media do never speak about him is a guy, a very young left activist who is called Lamel, who was killed, who was shot in a place called Bouzayan in the same area in Sidi Bouzid. He's a left leader, a young left leader who was killed. So it was the left, it was the communists, it was the workers' activists and the student movement activists who were the first martyrs and who gave the courage to people. And then it was the trade union movement that was in the area and on the ground to, let's say, to be with people. And all of the marches and the protests started from the headquarters of UGTT and came back to the headquarters in the region or in Tunis. Although the leadership of UGTT at that time was a bureaucratic, pro-Ben Ali leadership, who were clever enough, as opportunists do all the time, to change their mind at the last moment on January 13th and be with the side of the people, to save themselves. But it was us, the young leaders, and also the middle structures who exerted the pressure on the leadership of UGTT to take the right positions, and especially to take the very famous decision of the general strike of January the 13th in Sfax, the second biggest city in Tunisia, and the general strike in Tunis on January the 14th. Those two general strikes put an end to the head of the regime, not to the regime, to the government of Ben Ali, and we succeeded in toppling Ben Ali and his clan and his families of Trabelsi, who were really let's say, those who were bloody thirsty, and they just held millions, fortune of millions of dollars, while people was impoverished. But unfortunately, with all of these struggles, which will continue later on, the left found themselves for the first time, after have always been protesting, after have always been a force of protest, of refusal. We were courageous enough, brave enough to do all of that. However, for the first time in our history in Tunisia, between January the 14th and January the 22nd, about 8 days in front of power, it was very easy, and we were very close to power, but unfortunately, because of the absence of the organized, conscious, brave leadership, whether of a revolutionary party or of a revolutionary front, we missed a very important moment in history, because in those days, almost nothing. Everybody was stared, astonished, surprised. The army, even I say, even the American, even USA and the European Union were just trying to understand, because I am against the thesis that is saying that all of these events were pushed forward and prepared by the Americans. This is nonsense. We can't accept that, but it was us, the people, who revolted. But within a few days, while they were starting to breathe and to understand what was happening, we missed history. A decision was taken, but that was not put into practice, which was to go forward and to impose a revolutionary government. But unfortunately, our leaders refused it and considered that as anarchy, as something which cannot be achieved, although we think that it would have been achieved. to find ourselves briefly to, I'm not speaking about just events, but about the lessons from history to be learned. And then, unfortunately, with the first